It's working. Good afternoon. It is January the 1st, 2022, and I wish everybody a very happy new year. I'm reading BLISS Afterlife, a manuscript I started writing in 2006, 15 years ago, and it is a story about a reincarnation, Bliss, who passed away when she was 95. And this has been a little time ago, and this is explaining the various relationships in Bliss's life. Chapter 50. Tony. This is grandson. Tony was sitting in the conservatory with Ben. He loved being together with everybody, and he realized how much he had missed Ben. They had always liked each other. In fact, Tony thought that Ben was one of the best people to talk to in his life. They were recounting each other's experiences. Tony was a little envious of Ben. He was so happy and full of life. He would be a dad, and in a year from now his life would be very different. It made him feel that he also really wanted to feel like this one day, full of enthusiasm for the future, although Ben was also a little scared. They both really knew very little about bringing up children. Ben laughed. Tony had just wondered if babies pee in the middle of the night, or do you just put them down and that's it until the morning. Ben knew a little more. He had several conversations with his future mother-in-law, who was only too happy to give him more information. They both remembered Aunt Mary's two daughters. They were very young teenagers when Petra was born, and they were fascinated by her. She was the first baby they ever really knew. Ben turned to Tony. So, how is your love life? Tony shrugged his shoulders. I can't say that I have a girlfriend really, but I have been very friendly with the girl who lives next door to me. He grinned. She is the girl next door. Remember how we both liked Auntie Berry's neighbor's daughter? Indeed I do. Ben laughed. They both had such a silly crush on that girl, and they almost fell out over it. She was older than both of them and had no interest in either of them, but it never stopped her flirting with Ben. Or Tony. So who is she? Tony sat up, touched his chin. He hadn't shaved and it felt itchy. Her name is Melanie. She has only just moved in 3 months ago. I kept meeting her on the road and only realized a few weeks ago that she lived upstairs in the top floor apartment. As we kept bumping into each other on the street, we had started to smile at each other, good morning and so on. A couple of weeks ago we met on the stairs and stood chatting for almost half an hour. About what? Well, she dropped a necklace and was looking for the pendant. It was a sort of a chakra symbol, you know? 7 colors on a little silver snake. I was glad Omi had explained the whole chakra system to me years ago. I didn't feel a fool, not knowing what it was. Chakras, huh? Well, I hadn't thought about those conversations we had with Omi for ages. Although, I did talk to Faye's mum about it. Actually, I was also glad for this. For this was something I had also already heard about through Omi. Well, it turns out Melanie is a healer and works part-time in a coffee shop near the station. She's very different to any other girl I've ever met out with. She's a bit far out. What do you mean? Well, during our first conversation, we were just talking about the necklace, which I found, by the way. With Mum being a sound therapist, I was interested what she does. You know how my mum goes on about holistic therapies? She talks so often about the mind-body connection. Dad is always glad when I'm around when she gets into the subject. They both laughed. When Bliss, their nan, was still around, they had lively discussions about the innate healing capacity of the human body. Both will never forget a big family dinner in Omi Bliss Garden in London. Ben's other grandparents had been there, both Indian, of course. Their son, Ben's dad, Steve and Susan, his mum, Holly and Chris, Tony's parents, their Aunt Berry and her daughters, Eleanor and Petra, both little girls then. Petra was still a toddler then. Granddad and Omi Bliss, Ben and Tony were teenagers then. Cass, Bliss's sister and grandmother to Petra and Eleanor. A couple from next door had also been over. They had all sat down for lunch outside in the garden. It was a lovely day and lots of noise and music was playing. the question of blessing food came up, and they had this discussion about why and when and what food. It had become dicey a few times. Grandad loved his meat and his ale and a fag. Ben's grandparents were both vegetarians, and his grandmother never touched a drop. Ormy Bliss juggled the arguments around. No one should be offended. It was the funniest thing when little Petra piped up, "What's an omnivore?" And Eleanor shouted, "Omnivores sind Schweine. Ein gutes Schwein frisst alles." Omnivores are pigs. A good pig eats everything. Then Omi had to translate that Petra wanted to know what an omnivore is, and Eleanor told her it's pigs and a good pig eats everything. Oh, you had to be there. Tony was already helpless with laughter. Ben held his sides. The look on Steve's mother's face. Oh, but we all laughed. Petra was the cutest little girl, and Eleanor used to come out with the funniest stuff. Even better when she mixed English and German. We always had a really good time. Remember when everybody had gone and it was only us, you and me and you and my parents, Omi Bliss and Grandad. We always sat up for a bit longer to talk, and you were learning the guitar and we used to sing. Yeah, I know. But I remember my mum and dad had already started to drift apart. I know, Ben. Anyhow, what's your dad thinking about becoming a granddad? Well, I haven't told him yet. Well, what? Why not? Oh, I don't know. I shall ring him later. Mum already said I should. She doesn't hear much of him. But she said she would hate it if he talked about it. And he didn't know anything. Well, message him or ring him now. No time like the present. You seem to have been putting it off, and you might as well give him a chance to meet Faye. Yes, okay, I guess you're right. I shall go off now anyway. I'm meeting Faye later. She's out with Anna, and I might as well do it before she gets back. Okay, I'll see you later. I want to hear more about the way out girl you fancy. I didn't say I fancied her. Anyway, we'll talk about it later, and I'm not even sure how much I should tell you. Now you sound intriguing. Okay, I can't wait. I text you later as I don't know what our plans are yet. Yeah, okay then, bye-bye, see you later. Chapter 51. Steve hears the news. Dad, how are you? Goodness, Ben. Wow, what a surprise. I was thinking about you only this morning. Believe it or not, but I read some of your blog. Well, you have a girlfriend. Tell me, what's been going on in your life? Ben suddenly felt fine. His dad was just as usual. He couldn't think suddenly why he thought it was so difficult to tell him. Well, a lot actually. Firstly, I'm here in England, and secondly, I'm here with Faye. And you already know who she is. You read my blog. I would love to introduce you to her, or her to you, or whatever. But can we meet up? Blimey, yes, of course, any time. I'm in Brighton most of the time nowadays, but I can come up to London any time. I gather you're in London with your mums. Yes, we are. Actually, why not tomorrow? We're going to Germany next week to see Barry and the girls. Oh, okay. I come. Late morning. Where shall we meet? I don't mind coming to your mum's place. I speak to her. I think she's in the refuge all of tomorrow, so just come here to the house around midday. Yeah, great. Can't wait to see you, son. Lovely. Okay, see you tomorrow. Chapter 52. Steve, Ben's father. After he put the phone down, Steve sat back down in his armchair. He felt excited to see his son and girlfriend. He was still settling into the thought of his son being so grown up. He had agonized a lot over the last few years about his constant need to stray from what he knew was a good life. He had been in love with Susan when they started going out, but he was always tempted by something new. Being in a band made it easier. There were always nice girls who made him feel that he was special. It certainly was a weakness. He recognized it some time ago, and having spent quite a few years on his own, he had just recently met a new woman, which had made him feel more excited about his future than he'd been for a long time. Silvana's mother was Austrian, and her father was Irish. She was 58, 6 years younger than him, and her daughter was 24, similar age to Ben. He had not met Poppy, her daughter. Silvana was waiting for a good time to meet up. She lived in Brighton and he had met her at a gig in a local pub. She loved rhythm and was involved in community activities, music and drumming, a passion she had made into a business a few years ago, and she had been he'd been to a couple of her sessions recently. They got on really well. Somehow she reminded him of why he loved his music so much, and she was easy to be with. She was in love with her life, and the world looked always brighter when they spent time together, which had been quite a lot in the last couple of months. He looked around his living room and decided to be productive, clean the place up a bit. He was hoping to see Silvana soon and invite her for an evening of food and music. He was looking forward to seeing Steve. It's been far too long again that they had a chat. He always felt a little guilty when thinking of Ben. He was grateful that somehow his little boy had become so independent and so adventurous, and so happy in this new relationship. He had always felt he had let him down. Once the excitement of a new affair waned, he knew that his restlessness was not good for Ben when he was growing up. It was something he now regretted. Alas, the boy had turned out really well. He got up to get the hoover out and set up to clearing and cleaning his flat. So I finish here. That was chapter 52, and I shall read chapter 53 soon, and it's entitled Ben and Faye. Good evening.